What's going on, guys? Miles Corey with her writing with Miles Corey, excuse me. Um, and today I'm doing another character analysis. However, I'm veering away from the Wire just for now. We're gonna do more Wire characters, but I want to jump into Game of Thrones because there's a lot of very interesting characters in the Game of Thrones universe. And for the first one I want to do, I'm gonna have to break this up into multiple parts. I'm gonna do Tyrion Lannister. So today I want to talk a bit about Tyrion Lannister, probably one of my favorite characters just in all of TV. Obviously it comes from the Song of Ice and Fire books from George R.R. Martin. Remade, played by Peter Dinklage in the Game of Thrones, the TV series adaptation, I should say, of the books. For today, we're going to talk about season 1 Tyrion, right? So when we first see Tyrion, obviously we see him in a brothel. He's with Tyrion's a very at least in season 1 and kind of up to this point, he's very kind of a lustful person. He doesn't really take responsibility too seriously at this point because he hasn't really been given any responsibility. And he's born of high nobility, right? So he is the son of Tywin Lannister, who's arguably the most powerful man in Westeros, even though he's not king. And he's definitely the wealthiest. So Tyrion has a lot of money, and he's kind of from his birth, he's viewed as the disappointment, right? When he came out, so he's a dwarf, I should say that for y'all that don't know. He is a dwarf, and in this world, dwarfs are kind of looked at as, just monsters. But he was a dwarf born to Tywin Lannister, and while being born, during childbirth, his mother, Joanna, and obviously Tywin's wife, she passed away during childbirth with Tyrion, right? And there's a lot of different reactions to this. Jaime is more focused on, Tyrion, and he feels, sorry for Tyrion, as Tyrion kind of takes a lot of abuse growing up. Cersei, his older sister, blames Tyrion for the death of their mother, and she's kind of always had resentment towards Tyrion. And I think, Cersei's obviously another interesting character. I think Cersei probably subconsciously, if not fully consciously, blames Tyrion for, the direction that she went, without her mother being around and kind of Tywin being the sole head of the household. She didn't really have somebody that she could go to, for emotional support. Because Tywin was this, brooding figure, this, he didn't really care about the feelings of his family, right? Or of his, children. Joanna was more that motherly figure that someone like Cersei was missing, and Tyrion and Jaime. But I think Cersei more than, Jaime, 100% more than Jaime, blames Tyrion for, not having that mother figure in her life and how that affected her. And then Tywin, obviously, he blames Tyrion for, losing the love of his life, right? Like, he loved Joanna. She was, Tywin was a very menacing character, but people would say that she was the only person that could get Tywin to smile. And, he loses her to Tyrion, to childbirth with Tyrion. So obviously Tyrion growing up, he took a lot of mental and emotional abuse from his family. People outside of the Lannister family, kind of looked down on Tyrion. And Tywin mentions it on multiple occasions in season 1, how he's the lowest of the Lannisters, in regards to how he sees Tyrion, compared to Jaime and Cersei. and you gotta believe that Tyrion's gonna take a lot of this stuff to heart, right? I mean, you to have your own, father, to have your own family just view you as, beneath them, to view you as the lowest point, is gonna have a mental toll on you, no matter how mentally tough you are. But Tyrion, in his, when he's in Winterfell, for the big royal feast, or for, the king coming over trying to get Ned to be his hand, he finds Jon Snow, a bastard, outside, right? And Jon Snow is, another big character in the Game of Thrones universe. And he tells Jon, he says, don't hide who you are, because Jon is a bastard, very frowned upon in Westeros. Tyrion's a dwarf, also frowned upon in Westeros. And Tyrion gives Jon this advice: don't forget who you are, because the world won't. Wear it like armor, and nobody can use it to hurt you. And it's a very, it may not 100% be a healthy way of looking at things, but I think for Tyrion, it's his way of coping with life, right? It's his way of coping with his own deficiencies. It's his way of coping with his birth, or just his childhood, just this childhood trauma of, or just trauma in general of people, speaking down to him, people viewing him as less than. He uses it as armor, right? He embraces who he is, and he embraces the good parts of him too, right? So he embraces the good and the bad, and by embracing the bad, people can't use the bad against him. So, again, Tyrion, he has a lot of adventures in season 1. We see him go to the wall. We see Tyrion, he's a very smart guy. I mean, he reads a lot. He's an intellect. He's the intellect of the 3 children for sure. Jaime is, the sword. Cersei is kind of more, she's kind of the more royal of the 3. Jaime's the knight, and Tyrion's kind of the intellect, right? He's kind of the mind of the 3 children. And people talk about it a lot with Tywin. What drives him insane is that his great attributes got split amongst his 3 children in terms of, the intellect and the intellectual and the commander, the warrior, and then kind of I wouldn't say Cersei's always diplomatic, but kind of the noble side of him, right? So and also the ruthlessness. I think obviously Cersei's very ruthless, but just kind of wrapping up this part 1 video of Tyrion. He's just very interesting character, and he grew up with a lot of childhood trauma, and he still has a lot of people, that, look down on him. But I think through his childhood, he's kind of been molded into this, I don't care. He just doesn't care, right? Or he pretends not to care on the surface, as to where, if people throw verbal knives at him, they don't really hit him as much, and he knows where to hit people, where it hurts them, But anyway, that's the end of this video. I'm going to come with a part 2 coming soon with Tyrion.